Hi there, I'm Aly Elliott.
Hi everybody, I'm Aly Elliott and we're back again today continuing the Hiraeth series. This image in particular is going to be a different story than you have come accustomed to hearing if you've been paying attention to this series. If you came to the opening, if you saw the book, if you saw the series online, whatever it may be, this one is different than the rest. It started out because I wanted a nice even 20, but it also started long before this process, before this project, before I became a bereaved mother or a mother at all. This goes back to my great grandmother and her children, and her story fascinated me as a little girl, and it has woven its thread through many parts of my life, and it keeps coming back up. And I actually this year received my first Grand Imaging Award nomination based on a photograph, a composite that I did that my great grandmother was a part of. So that's two major photo projects that she has been involved with. I never got to meet her in person, but my mother was masterful at helping carry the legacy of the women who'd gone before her. I was the youngest in my family. There were a lot of people that I didn't get to meet, but because of my mother's diligence, I maintain a connection to those family members. I feel like I know them, and I feel like I know their stories, and we've been blessed with, you can see over here, the many diaries from my family and very well documented family history that I'm very lucky to have, and it keeps their spirit alive, it keeps their story alive, and we as photographers, that's what we do, is try to produce this connection that would otherwise be lost because we weren't able to meet in person. So that's what photographs do. That's what family stories do, and I love to combine them both. I actually have right here the framed print from the Hiraeth opening displayed here in my office, just to help keep me grounded and keep me rooted in history, as I've grown up and moved away and had my own family. And I hope that I'm passing that along to my children and that they know the stories of these women and men who've gone before us, because it's up to us now to keep that alive. So you'll notice that there is not just one, not just two names here by my great-grandmother's portrait. There are 5. And the first time that she was able to have, like many of us, all of her children together was after their deaths. And she suffered her first loss, was a full-term stillborn boy named Lou in 1922. And despite the time period, the story of Lou continued in our family for now 100 years later. And Lord willing, forever, people will remember him, even though grief was looked upon differently then than it is now. I'm very grateful all the time to be able to grieve freely, even though not everybody understands it. Most people are respectful of it. And I feel very lucky to be in a time period, if we have to grieve, we can grieve together. And that's something that my great-grandmother didn't have. It was hidden away. And you were supposed to hide it away and move on. And she never got to hold Lou. But knowing his story and knowing how that has been passed through generations allows his memory to continue. And I'm sure that would make her happy. Even the story, the glimpse of his little round face, as it was told, continued on. And there's no grave marker, but I know where he is buried. I would love someday to see a grave marker happen for him. Regardless, he is remembered. 5 years later, her only other son, James Riley, would pass at the age of nearly 7 after an illness that lasted about a week. My oldest son is Boston Riley, named for him. And they appear side by side in conversations with our ancestors, the image that has been honored with a GIA nomination this year. So that's another way that the family members still keep, we're keeping their memory alive, we're keeping their spirit alive, and another way that they're going to be honored, I hope. So Eula, my great-grandmother, outlived both of her sons by a pretty significant time period. And then her daughters, her 3 daughters, passed after Eula herself. So her daughters were able to live long, happy, healthy lives and take care of and support each other. Her sons passed painfully early. And much of what I understood about grief and about family came from those roots that my own mother was rooted in. And I have many letters, many diaries back here from all different family members. Almost every one that I have of Eula, she would write family is everything, and that came up time and time again in most every story. The heart of it was back to family. And 100 years later, that is greatly appreciated. And though I never got to meet her, I feel like I know her. And I hope that I am doing her proud with carrying on her son's names and very much her legacy and all of her stories. And I'm grateful to have them. And thank you to you guys for following along while we go through this. So that was a really long-winded way. So her children were Lou, Riley, Rusie, Marney, and Helen Lou. And you'll hear several of those in my own children's names. Visually, this was a tough one. I wasn't sure how I wanted to depict it. Do I make them all old? Do they stay young and youthful? They were never all alive at the same time, like every other family in Hiraeth. And it was a different time period, so the images that I have of them are extremely limited. I did want to incorporate the flag somehow because my grandmother, Marney, who raised my mom, served as a Marine in World War II, which is, I'm so proud of that. Like, that's so cool. My grandmother and grandfather met both serving as Marines during the Second World War. So I wanted to include that patriotism. She felt that she was serving because her brothers had passed and she was stepping up as the oldest to do her part for our family. The image is shot under Riley's tree. So when Riley passed away, it was 1927. His parents did not have much money. My great-grandmother's mother and father paid for a small marble headstone, and his parents wanted their own way to memorialize him. They couldn't afford the headstone, so they planted, his father planted this tree that for 100 years towered over that part of the cemetery where my own daughter is buried. Shockingly, it was downed by lightning last year, and it has left an unshaded whole section of the cemetery. It's just shocking that after 100 years it would come down in that manner. But it's down now, but it too is memorialized in this portrait. And when I took it, of course, had no idea that our time with that landmark would be limited. So I'm really grateful to have had it. We've had many balloon releases there for Keeley, and it has appeared multiple times. I had an article on Still Standing magazine about this connection with my heritage. I can post that link below so that you can see. And all of this, of course, came about before the tree was gone, and we just showed up at the cemetery one day and it was gone. It was crazy. So I've got the flag and I've got the tree, and I just wanted to do a shadow of those 5 kids together, because what more could any mother want than just to know her children were together and happy, and there she is with them. The headstones around there are their headstones, and the pictures fluttering through the air and on the ground, those are the pictures that we do have of them. And they're kind of symbolic of little memories kind of floating around, where some of them may or may not have them together, but they still have the story. And that is part of this entire project. What I wanted to portray was having each other despite not having hard-won stories. These are stories that we have through connection, but not necessarily through events. So it's a different kind of story than maybe we're used to talking about with our siblings, but every bit is important. The lighting was important to me here. I wanted that sun flare, that backlit kind of, bright light symbolism recorded in that. I don't have what she would have written, because I don't know what she would have written. She never directly put on paper, to my knowledge, anything about Lou. And even in the aftermath of Riley's death, she was not encouraged. Now we hear we should journal, we should talk to somebody. That's the stuff that they said, definitely don't do that. Definitely don't. Just pretend like it never happened. And of course she couldn't do that. I'm sure most mothers couldn't, but she did that publicly. So we don't have the writings or access to those feelings that we would have now. So I'm very grateful to know that at all, to have had that connection at all with her. Tomorrow we will go on. Next in the book will be Isaiah and Herbie. And we'll talk about their image and their family. And I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of this and being along for this journey, and for your patience over the last few months while we settled in our renovations and all that good stuff. So we're back. We're going to get Hiraeth wrapped up quickly, and then we'll move on to some other things that I've got in the works. Please hit the subscribe button and follow along so you get notifications. And I will see you guys soon. Thanks.
That's why I do my mommy. Please.